participants of the program. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all for an insightful and engaging discussion today on an important topic of the TRIPS provisions for pharmaceutical patents and the provisions allowed for the accessibility of the essential medicines in the current times. Let me welcome our guest speaker, Dr. Gopkumar Nayarji, and Honorary Director General of ADCOG, Mr. Uday Bhaskar, and all the distinguished delegates for today's program. As we know, this is the testing times for all of us, and we are all struggling to get the affordable medicines to fight this COVID pandemic. And in fact, we are so fortunate to born in a country which has a lot of scientific capabilities and a good and big pharma industry, which could easily make the generics, affordable generics available to the patients. And in fact, at the initial times of pandemic, there is a big news in the global channels that the 7 Indian companies got the voluntary license from Gilead, which could supply the medicines to 127 nations. But unfortunately, on the other side, during the second wave, every one of us moving from pillar to post with a handful of amount in the pockets for getting a single vial of remdesivir. So why did this happen? Though good number of voluntary licenses are granted to several companies, the accessibility and the affordability has become a challenge to the population of our country. In this context, there are a lot of arguments by the different organizations and the opposition parties and even the global health scientists for having a compulsory license by the government of India. And even on the world platform, there is a strong support for the patent waivers proposals of India and South Africa by the nations who are very proactive towards the intellectual properties. And in fact, the Biden administration itself backed the proposal of the patent waiver, and European lawmakers are also supporting for this. In this context, let's have a detailed discussion on the provisions of the TRIPS for this accessibility of the essential medicines. Before I would be calling upon Dr. Nair, let me take a pleasure to invite our Honorary Director General of ADCOG, Mr. Uday Bhaskar, for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Lakshmi, and respected Gopkumar Nayarji, and ladies and gentlemen, good morning, everyone. I'm going to speak as a common man and a patient-centric person. I'm not going to talk as a regulator or heading an export promotion council, or I'm not representing any company. I strongly feel that, you know, whatever I'm going to talk, it's patient-centric, and so I always stand for correction from the Bhishma Pitamaha of patents, Gopkumar Nayarji, and he also, you know, he never used to dye his hair to show that, you know, he's he's just like, you know, old wine. Day by day, he's day by day he's very active, and just before this session, he was telling that, you know, everyone should be a student, and we need to learn. I believe in that. So just I'll touch upon actually India granted compulsory licensing first time in 2011 to Natco Pharma of Hyderabad. In that, you know, the Nexavar case, that's the original innovator was Bayer, and that is used for the treatment of liver and kidney cancer. So at that point of time, you know, the Bayer never used to import more, and they never tried to make the drug available to the Indian patients. At that point of time, the patient course needs 2.84 lakh. So after the compulsory licensing of under Section 84 of Indian Patents Act, so Natco started selling that product at 8,880. Now the price would have been, it will be less than that. So that itself shows that, how the compulsory licensing has saved thousands and lakhs of people who are suffering from the cancers of kidney as well as the liver. So the Gopkumar Nair is going to talk about the WTO and its intricacies and all. So WTO has provided a provision in the compulsory licensing. This was used by the African countries during the AIDS pandemic. So it's a provision given to the people and the governments to make use of that. So very recently, if you see that, baricitinib, that drug is also, NATCO has applied for a compulsory licensing, but immediately the Lilly has given permission to 5 more companies other than NATCO. Finally, they added NATCO into that. The point is that, so each tablet of baricitinib manufactured by Lilly was 3,000 rupees. NATCO ready to give it to the Indian consumer 30 rupees per tablet. That shows, what the vision of the people who framed this WTO and compulsory licensing, the provisions. So in the recent past also, the Gilead has given voluntary licensing, as Lakshmi has rightly mentioned. If you see from Sofosbuvir and all these drugs, most of the innovators, particularly the foreign companies, are giving voluntary licensing because the Bayer NATCO case is always in their mind. So if we don't come forward with the voluntary licensing, so people may go for the compulsory licensing. So NATCO fought against the Bayer. I think that is the first case any small country, small not in the sense of the population, the country which is not in the innovation have fought against the giant Bayer and they won the case. These are all the classical examples of the compulsory licensing or voluntary licensing. As Lakshmi has rightly mentioned that there are serious dilemma in the regulator's mind also. So Gilead has given voluntary licensing to 7 Indian companies. Very recently, couple of months back, the Government of India has given exemption and to import this remdesivir. And most of the Indian manufacturers wanted to import the remdesivir from Bangladesh, Russia, Uzbekistan, and all these countries. The version of the national regulators, I'm not telling it's an official version, said that only 7 companies are given voluntary licensing in India, so you can't import. I don't see that nowhere in the Drugs and Cosmetics Act they mentioned about the wallet patents and compulsory licensing and voluntary licensing and all these things. That's a different matter altogether. So these are to be clarified by our Gopkumar Nayaji. Very recently also Merck also has given voluntary licensing to 5 companies for molnupiravir. If you see all these things, they're not that they're readily wanted to share these products or the technology to the Indian companies. India is a very big population. Even though Gilead is the innovator of remdesivir, the remdesivir consumed by Indian the patients during the COVID pandemic is much more higher. So keeping these things into mind, particularly the nowadays the innovator companies are coming forward to share their technology with Indian companies. I would like to touch upon the vaccine front. I'm not going to talk about the remdesivir, the pricing and all. The vaccines also, our companies, there is a demand within India that the Indian manufacturers who are in the forefront of manufacturing the vaccines, the other Indian companies are also asking for the transfer of the technology. But our company is telling that, this is our property and this is our innovation. You can't share. So one way we're asking the international community and the innovators to share their technology, to transfer their technology to India. And parallelly, our manufacturers are not ready to share the technology, and at least they're not committing themselves. That, this kind of a thing. But at the end of the day, whatever intellectual property rights, that should not be an obstacle in allowing the people to have a quality drugs at affordable price. So with this, I think I saw your presentation. It's very exhaustive, and people can learn so much about that. I read 3-4 times to understand. Actually, Lakshmi did her post-graduation in patents, and you are master of that. I am a layman. So with this, I would like to conclude my talk, and thank you once again, Nair Saab, for accepting our invitation, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for putting forward your thoughts and the need of the hour for the global population. And in fact, there is a quote that no one is safe until everybody is safe. That's being adopted by almost all the nations at this point of time. So in this backdrop, let me invite our guest speaker, Dr. Gopkumar Nair ji, who is a patent guru for the entire nation and who has been associated with several industries and the academicians and the government on the intellectual properties and especially on the pharmaceutical patents. To be precise, for briefing Dr. Gopkumar Nair, let me allow 2 minutes time to brief you about the profile of the Dr. Nair. In short, he is a patent expert, industry leader, entrepreneur, and advisor and a teacher. That's a so brief intro, I could say.
Very good, very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And I take the pleasure to invite you for your detailed discussion points on these provisions of the TRIPS for patents.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you, Lakshmi Prasanna. God bless you. I am indeed grateful to Uday Bhaskar ji for giving me this opportunity to share a few thoughts on the subject of choice of the subject of relevance in the today's context. It is almost like a homecoming to me when I am addressing this very distinguished gathering. I know there are many eminent people in the audience. I am grateful to all of you for joining, and especially thankful to once again to Ravi Uday Bhaskar ji and Lakshmi Prasanna for making this possible. In fact, I would at this moment like to recall since I am speaking to the AIDCOC, they recall the great leaders in the drugs control community, starting from Dr. B.B. Patel and Dr. Ranganekar and so many others. And I am taking this opportunity to record the memory, because you are all frontline healthcare, frontline warriors. You are also contributing so much to the quality, efficacy, and the patient's safety. The contribution of this sector of the community is less recognized. And I especially remember one of your colleagues, Neha Monga, I think. Yes, Neha Monga, who was sacrificed her life in performance of the duty. We must remember her as a martyr and a friend of Drugs Control Administration. And with this short introduction, I would like to get into the subject matter of today's discussion. As Dr. Uday Bhaskar ji has mentioned, we are meeting in the context of baricitinib, where Eli Lilly has licensed it to few manufacturers on voluntary license basis. And And it would be interesting for you to know. Sri Uday Bhaskar ji has mentioned about the voluntary license of baricitinib. When they had already licensed a few manufacturers, the NATCO threatened to file a compulsory license application. And since they were already ready to launch, Eli Lilly said, "You are ready to launch, we will give you a VL." So we will run into the benefits of a CL versus VL, who benefits more and why. We will come to this little later. But let me mention to you, Uday Bhaskar ji, as well as the audience, that it is interesting in the context of today's webinar that a company called Bajaj Healthcare, having factory in Gujarat, has already filed a compulsory license application for baricitinib because they sought a voluntary license from Eli Lilly, and Eli Lilly clearly said that we are already granted so many people, now more is not possible. So they have, the Bajaj Healthcare has already filed a compulsory license application for baricitinib and have said that while Eli Lilly's or Insight is the owner of the patent, Eli Lilly is the licensee. Their price is 3,000 and odd, as Uday Bhaskar ji has mentioned. But the Bajaj Healthcare has offered to market it for ₹14. So this is what is stated in the compulsory license application. So in this context, we are already becoming more and more relevant. I now get into the subject matter, TRIPS provisions in pharmaceutical patents and access to essential medicines. I am almost sure that everybody present here knows what is TRIPS. TRIPS is trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights. This is one of the agreements which is subsidiary to the WTO, as Uday Bhaskar ji mentioned, World Trade Organization. We signed both these. We became signatories to both these in 1995, and India became fully TRIPS compliant in 2005. So basically, this is the introduction. Let us have the next slide, please. Yeah, this slide is actually giving you the different aspects of intellectual property rights. Due to paucity of time, I won't be elaborating on them. But the Drugs Control Administration officers would be coming across all of these, not only patents, others also in performance of their duties. So copyright is an expression, many written in, of course, lately the product inserts are not there because mostly the original concept of dispensing in cartons, with cartons and product insert is mostly gone out of fashion. So copyright is still an important element when it comes to plagiarism or direct reproduction of any of the descriptions without having some originality. But patents is the most important one. Trademarks also is important because there is a section 13 in Trademarks Act, which very clearly says that INN, International Non-Proprietary Names, means generic names cannot be used as trademark. And most countries have very, very innovatively coined trademarks, including for pharma. But because of the medical profession wanting to identify Indian medicaments through the generic closeness to generic names or the disease, we still have the most of the brand names very similar, but not exact. So there have been many cases where the brand names which have been registered had to be discontinued because WHO chose one of those names which is very similar to the INN as a brand name that had to be discontinued. The of late, the designs have also become important to the drug administration, because now devices are more and more getting into application. More and more medicines are being dispensed through special devices, and design is also now becoming a issue of infringement, etc., in the industry. So I will not elaborate more on this. Let us go to the next slide, please. So basically, we are here to discuss on patents, primarily on patents. As you know, patents are granted on the basis of the patentability criteria evolving from novelty, inventive step, and industrial application. Novelty is derived from a single prior art, while inventive step or non-obviousness is derived from multiple prior arts, including all the knowledge which is currently existing, or putting all of them together in form of a mosaicing of the knowledge, or mosaicing of all the information, and it will be measured in terms of a person skilled in the art in that particular field. In a pharmacist or a chemist will be the person skilled in the art as far as pharmaceutical patents are concerned. Industrial application, of course, goes without saying. But in India, there are certain sections, especially Section 3, invention not patentable, which is very, very unique in the entire patent acts of the world. India is very specifically listed out, A to P, different subsections where it is not patentable. Otherwise, novelty, non-obviousness, and utility are the basic requirements. Let us proceed further. Next slide, please. Out of this, a compulsory license is what is a compulsory license? A compulsory license is an involuntary contract between a willing buyer. Buyer is willing and the seller is not willing. So then the buyer can approach the state, and state, if convinced, can force the grant of a license to the buyer without the permission or without the approval or without the clearance of the seller. This is what is a compulsory license. Very often compulsory licenses are granted, especially in India. It is mostly affordability, accessibility issues, which are the most important under Section 83, 84, and similar. These are the ones where a compulsory license is granted to a third party. So dependent patent is being blocked. Then also, if there is a patent and it cannot be operated without the compulsory the license from the blocking patent, then also very often compulsory licenses are sought. Patent is not being worked. If it is not worked, this is one of the conditions under 84, and whether there is the pricing is not accessible, affordable, then also there is, and other conditions are antitrust, misuse or abuse, or national defense. In Section 100 and 101, there is a use by the state option also. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. The definition of compulsory license by WTO is when a government allows someone else to produce the patented product or the process without the consent of the patent owner. These are some of the flexibilities which are built into the TRIPS agreement, which we will see later. Next slide, please. So very important at this stage to compare the two. As Uday Bhaskar ji has mentioned, we have been threatening for filing compulsory licenses in India. These threats have not been taken seriously by the innovator global manufacturers. What is important to say is that when copyright, trademarks or brand registrations and designs, all of them are very freely and widely licensed voluntarily to those who are interested. Patents have not been licensed or has not been being licensed in the past voluntarily. But after the grant of compulsory license, by the then Controller General of the compulsory license has to be granted by the Controller General of Patents. As Uday Bhaskar ji mentioned, in the early 2010, 11, 12, so there has been a grant of compulsory license. But when the compulsory license is being granted by the government or the Controller General, he will fix certain conditions and say the amount of license fee, etc., will be decided by the government. So voluntary grant by the patentee with patentee's consent has much more flexibility. You can seek a better license fee, or even in very humanitarian conditions, you can give it entirely free of any monetary consideration, or you can ask for a higher monetary consideration. These flexibilities are available when it is granted on voluntary basis, while on compulsory license, all the conditions will be fixed by the Controller General and with no consultation with the innovator. Normally, as you have seen in recent cases, the earlier grant of a compulsory license in India has led to understanding of the limitations through compulsory license, including for control on the manufacturer who owns the compulsory license. The innovators have started granting more and more voluntary license now. And voluntary licenses can be non-exclusive. It can be granted to any number of manufacturers. Exclusive license, the compulsory license will be exclusive to the applicant. Very often, more compulsory licenses are not generally granted or generally applied for. The license terms are mutually agreed in case of VL, while license terms are, as mentioned earlier, fixed by the Controller General. The voluntary license is like an authorized generic. The innovator authorizes the interested manufacturers for qualified manufacturers, while the compulsory license is purely generic and without any authorization. Likelihood of technology transfer is possible in case of voluntary license because it is by mutual consent. There is no technology transfer in compulsory license. You have to find your own technology to introduce the product of equivalence or bioequivalence in the market. Royalty may or may not be on mutually agreed terms. Mostly, sometimes royalty is free also when it, like Gilead has done in 1 or 2 cases. Royalty payable is fixed by the Controller General in the case of compulsory license. CL can be pursued if VL is rejected. CL rejected appeal before High Court. If CL application is rejected, you can go in appeal, but these are yet to be tested in India. Common law, contract law are the forum through which you can handle the disputes, while in compulsory license, all disputes will be under the provisions of the Patent Act. So 3 grounds have been mentioned for in section 84: reasonably requirements not met, not available at affordable price, not worked in India. These are the criteria. Now Bajaj Healthcare has applied for baricitinib under these criteria, but I am doubtful whether they would succeed because there is enough licenses have been granted, and Eli Lilly has informed that they do not want to license too many manufacturers for the same product. So next slide, please. We are now on to the issue of why compulsory license. Compulsory licenses are required for essential medicines. There is a definition of essential medicines by WHO to meet the priority healthcare needs of a population. Objectives of WHO's Essential Medicines and Pharmaceutical Policies Program are to save lives and improve health by ensuring quality, efficacy, safety, and rational use of medicines, including traditional medicines. This is what the AIDCOOC is day in and day out engaged in. Next slide, please. Yeah. So in India has come up with a NLEM. The list of essential medicines in India has been notified in 2015. Presently, there are 376 drugs. Fortunately or unfortunately, the number is a little too large. It's high time that we revise, because it's so dynamic. The therapeutic and prophylactic and therapeutic treatment field is so dynamic that many medicines become obsolete, new medicines come. So a revision is due this year, and we hope the number will become more practically manageable. Of late, the COVID-19 has brought in a list of essential drugs. These are listed here, but unfortunately, some of them have, during the practice, turned out to be not that effective as they have been being promised, because they were all invented maybe for Ebola or some other infections, influenza, etc. So they have all been tried out on COVID. Some of them are found effective. Some of them, like baricitinib, is now emerging. So this is in recent times, the Supreme Court themselves, suo motu, took note of the shortage of oxygen medicines such as remdesivir, etc. And they have also suggested that compulsory licenses, granting of compulsory licenses to overcome shortages for treatment of COVID should be considered by the government. Similarly, next slide, please. The High Court of Delhi, High Court has also similarly come up with such a statement. Now, this is where did the basic concept of compulsory license, where did it start from? It started as early as 1883. This is the Bible or the Gita of the intellectual properties, Paris Convention, 1883, Article 3A. It is called Ter A those days. Each contracting state that takes legislative measures providing for the grant of compulsory license to prevent the abuses which might result from exclusive rights conferred by a patent may do so only with certain limitations. Next slide, please. So this Paris Convention provision has been built into what we now call the TRIPS. TRIPS is the modern Bible that trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights, which governs, which is all the state member countries have to follow the provisions of the TRIPS. It should not be violative of TRIPS. If it is violative, then you can be dragged to the dispute settlement body. So Article 2 TRIPS says TRIPS shall not derogate from existing obligations under Paris Convention and other convention for each form of intellectual property. So this is entire provision of Paris Convention is built into TRIPS. And if you go another section, this Article 7 says protection and enforcement of intellectual property rights should contribute to the promotion of technological innovation and to transfer and dissemination of technology for mutual advantages, etc., etc. And Article 8 very clearly says that should the members in formulating, amending laws and regulations should adopt measures necessary to protect public health and nutrition. So basically, these provisions of public health and nutrition are very much built into the principles of TRIPS. And because of that, every sovereign country is free to come up with their own solutions under the umbrella of TRIPS. Next slide, please. TRIPS have under TRIPS patent provisions of TRIPS starts from Article 27. Describe what is patentable subject matter. As I told you, the three pillars, they are described in Article 27, pillars of patentability, which I showed you in an earlier slide. Article 30 are exceptions. Exceptions in India are very elaborate, as I mentioned to you in section 3, subsection A to P lists out those exceptions. Article 31, other use without authorization of right holder. This is where the provisions for compulsory license come in. So this TRIPS itself has provision that third parties can move in third parties or including government can move in where there are cases of national emergency, extreme emergency, or public non-commercial use. This is covered in Indian Patent Act under section 92. Next slide, please. So basically, while countries were coming on board for incorporating the provisions of TRIPS into their own Patent Act, there has been large hue and cry when there were pandemics earlier, where there were local infestations, especially in Africa, and because of that, there have been, you see, what is a Doha Declaration? The WTO conducts various rounds to review the TRIPS and WTO and TRIPS. The WTO round, which was held at Doha, has come up with this resolution, which was moved by developing countries, and it has been unanimously adopted. Each member, what does it say, this resolution? Each member has the right to grant compulsory licenses and the freedom to determine the grounds upon which such licenses are granted. Each member has the right to determine what constitutes a national emergency or other circumstances of extreme urgency, it being understood that public health crisis, including those in relation to HIV/AIDS, TB or malaria or other epidemics, including the COVID epidemic now, pandemic, it is actually a pandemic, epidemics which are global are designated pandemics, can represent a national emergency or other circumstances of extreme urgency. India is rightly poised to grant a compulsory license now. However, let me conclude this. We recognize, next slide. This is a continuation. We recognize that WTO members with insufficient or no manufacturing capacities in the pharmaceutical sector could face difficulties in making effective use of compulsory licensing under TRIPS agreement. This has prompted Indian government to add section 92A after the Doha round, so that compulsory license issued by smaller countries can be honored by those who are having manufacturing facilities and can be exported. This is related to export. So basically, next slide, please. Currently, we are extremely well placed, extremely justified to grant a compulsory license. These are the sections under which under the Indian Patent Act that the compulsory licenses can be granted. So section 83 general principles, very elaborate, and some of these earlier we showed section article 7 and 8 of TRIPS. 8 of TRIPS have been virtually reproduced from one of our general principles in section 83. Compulsory licenses by third party is, as already mentioned, these are the conditions: reasonable requirement not satisfied, not available at reasonably affordable price, not worked in the territory of India, and related sections, how this can be operated, etc., are described in the subsequent sections up to section 89. Next slide, please. This is 92, earlier one. Section 92, as mentioned already, these are the section 92 is the one which is to be invoked when there are pandemic or epidemics, etc. 92A is primarily for export of patented pharmaceuticals for manufacturing of patented pharmaceuticals for exports to third world countries. And 93 is the license to operate as a deed between parties. And next slide, please. These are related sections. This section is very, very important. There is a provision for government to intervene and use a patented invention for purposes of government. Section 100 and 101 very clearly says that government of India, for example, under the Patent Act 1970, as amended, can walk in and take possession of the rights of the third parties for purposes of government use. This over and above compulsory license, government can do this without reference to the innovator. So a similar provision is available even in USA under 28 USC 1498. Next slide, please. So this is in India itself, the Delhi High Court on April 20, 2021 has come up suggesting to the government Patents Act provides for compulsory licenses under Section 84. Special provision for compulsory licenses under 92 and 100 provides the power of the central government to use inventions for purpose of government. So they are suggesting to the government that you should look at granting compulsory license. However, next slide, please. What is currently holding on the government is, even though such provisions are existing in the Patent Act and the exact sovereign immunity, sovereign rights are there for the government to intervene and grant compulsory licenses, government has not been doing so because government is negotiating with US and Europe for bilateral preferred PTS, preferential trade, and they do not want to upset the apple cart, and they prefer, since they have also been negotiating with the innovator companies for grant of more and more VLs. Most of these VLs which are granted, unlike earlier, the government has also been a party in the negotiations. So government is sort of pressurizing in innovator companies to grant more and more voluntary license instead of going for compulsory license. If the compulsory license, the earlier one compulsory license was granted, and that created such a hue and cry, the fire which started in the USTR, US Trade Representative's office in US, has still not died. So government of India does not want to antagonize the developed countries and prefer to negotiate with them. That is why they are encouraging the grant of VL. And these are some of the VLs which have recently been granted. And they are actually have been somewhat beneficial in treatment of the current COVID epidemic. Remdesivir, tocilizumab, even though these two are not lately found to be not as effective as they had originally promised, molnupiravir and baricitinib are definitely much more effective. Sputnik vaccine, Covishield has been developed with AstraZeneca and Oxford University by Serum Institute in India. And there has been recently a new medication, the name has not yet been announced, agreement between Innate Therapeutics and Strides. Next slide, please. So these are some of the BL and CL applicant need. Where does the drugs control department, where does FDA come in? FDA need to come in because all BL and CL applicants need to be qualified equip manufacturer, WHO GMP. They should possess WHO GMP certification. They should ensure bioequivalence, and the studies has to be vetted by the FDA. Requisite permissions have to be pre-obtained from DCJ or CDSCO as required. Why pre-obtained? Because they have to be certified as qualified to make these products before they apply either for CL or for VL. So it is where the drug administration comes into the picture, and this is a prerequisite. Well, in some cases where there is a voluntary license granted by mutual negotiation, they may approach the DCGI with the technology being transferred for purposes of trials, etc. in India. Those are some of the exceptions, but mostly whenever there is a generic is possible to be introduced by India, they go for permission before approaching the innovator company. They promise to offer at substantially lower price, which as already Uday Bhaskar has mentioned, the prices are very, very low compared to the innovator's price, even though there will be a royalty on the lower price being transferred to the innovator as per VL or CL provisions. So basically, to avoid prior manufacture and infringement, to avoid petition for revocation, these are very important requirement. Any person who is approaching for a voluntary license should not have infringed the innovator before, or should not have filed petition for revocation of the patent. This is one of the requirements. However, you will notice from recent relaxations. Earlier, Cipla used to be one of the companies who have been very strongly resisting what is called evergreening. Evergreening has been a very, very continuation of patent protection even after 20 years as being done through evergreening. And in India, Cipla has been in the forefront of the fighting of evergreening. However, now the innovator manufacturers have now accepted Cipla as a partner, and because of that, Cipla is no more filing no more engaging in any infringement, or not filing for any revocation or similar petitions, or including no more applying for or planning to apply for CL, because they are there in every list of VL granted in India. Next slide. This is the case law which Sri Uday Bhaskar ji was mentioning. So this has been already, since it has already been mentioned, we are not elaborating it. The CL has been very, very expeditiously sort of held and granted by the then Controller General of Patents, Mr. P.H. Kurian. And this, even though the innovator company has gone, Bayer has gone in appeal, at that time, the managing director of Bayer from US had said that we are not inventing drugs for these small developing countries. We are discovering these drugs for those who can afford, not etc. That became very, very subject of a big criticism and trolling, trolls. So basically, the appeal also did not succeed. So sorafenib price got reduced by 97%. So at the 3% of the innovator price, the drug was introduced in India. Next slide, please. So drug patent linkage. This is a very important. Where do India differ from US? There is the Drugs and Cosmetics Act as Form 44. And for application for permission to import or manufacture new drugs for sale or to undertake clinical trials. This is everybody who is from the CDCOC will be very, very familiar with this section. Next slide, please. And you will notice here that Form 44 and the Section 8 refers to patent status of the drug. This is an application for grant of permission to import or manufacture a new drug in India or to undertake clinical trials. So there, the Drugs Control Administration, whether it is DCGI or CDSCO, they are all asking for the patent status of the drug. Now, this is simply asking for the patent status of the drug. They are not asking anything more. So basically, in 2000, then Drugs Controller General of India went to US and he has probably been told. So he insisted that the data which is being submitted for a generic application must be self-generated, and you cannot take any information from the innovator. But this has been the then government headed by I.K. Gujral and the administration, they objected to this. Eventually that went into a, eventually the Drugs Controller General of India had to be sort of relieved because of the interpretation of the patent status of the drug. It is simply innocuous reference to a patent status. It doesn't mean that you cannot have the data which is generated already being used in India. So patent linkage in India is virtually not there. India is not linked the intellectual property right elements into the grant of a permission. The Drug Administration doesn't need to see what is the status in India of patent. You can see the patent, but you cannot really insist that you have to get a VL or a CL before applying for a drug permission. Next slide, please. This is in the Bayer case of sorafenib, when they went on appeal, it has been very clearly stated by the Supreme Court that the attempt at bringing in patent linkage on the basis of existing provisions of the Patent Act and DCA, Drugs Control Administration, cannot be countenanced. The Supreme Court themselves have ruled out that it cannot be patent linkage, cannot be brought in as far as Indian provisions are concerned. Patent regulatory linkage is identified as a TRIPS plus provision, and Government of India has not acceded, even though there have been the Super 301 and the USTR are pressurizing India for a TRIPS plus 1 provision. We are not agreeing to that because we have to make essential medicines affordable to the public at large, and especially in cases of pandemics like this. Next slide, please. So unlike in India, US has what is called an orange book for all the drug products and a purple book for biologicals and biosimilars. This orange book lists out all the products, because unlike in India, there are method of treatment patents, second use patents. So those are all listed in the orange book. And also there are special provision of drug exclusivity. So exclusivity, even in the absence of patent also, exclusivity can be provided that a second manufacturer cannot introduce the product which has been granted an exclusivity for a certain number of years. That can be 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, depending on the conditions or the reason under which exclusivity is granted. There is something called a orphan drug exclusivity, which is for 7 years, and as long as the drug continues to be an orphan drug means only it is being consumed by a very limited population. So then orphan drug exclusivity is also available in US. India, no such either a patent linkage or exclusivity exists in India. India has not agreed to do these provisions because India is more concerned with the patient benefits, patient's requirements. Next slide, please. If you see a single drug, this is an example, aripiprazole. Its brand name is Abilify. So this drug, you can see the number of patents which are listed. I cannot accommodate all of them in this page. You will kindly excuse me. But these are all the use codes, etc. Different indications, different patents have been taken, and they go on extending from 2022, 2029, 2030, it will go into 2040 and 2050. Because why? Because evergreening. So simply to prevent people from coming up with generic products, there is an extension of the lifetime of the innovator's product possible in US. US is more oriented to the innovator, and India is more oriented to the patient requirement. So we have not acceded to such provisions. At the same time, you can see here a person who is interested in pharma patent linkage should see para 1, para 2, para 3, para 4 certifications. So para 1 is where there is no patent, para 2 is where patent has expired, para 3 is there is a patent but we will not infringe the patent. So basically para 4 is a challenge. Patent is either you declare it is invalid, you are challenging the patent, or you declare that your drug is not infringing the existing patent. So these are provisions in US. Next slide, please. So in COVID-19, this is actually referred by Uday Bhaskarji, India and South Africa. No, Lakshmi, I think. Lakshmi Prasanna has referred to this. India and South Africa initiated a proposal in WTO for patent waiver of drugs and vaccines for COVID. This has met with surprisingly strong support from USA for the first time. However, countries like Germany in Europe are still blocking this, and it is yet to see whether the light of the day, whether at the end of the current session in WTO, whether this will get cleared. Even though G7 summit has supported, but the wordings of the text which were expected to come out by July end reads, focus on health products and technologies as the prevention, treatment or containment of COVID-19 involves a range of products and technologies, and intellectual property issues may arise with respect to the products and technologies, their materials or components, as well as their methods and means of manufacture. Waiver has been proposed by G7 for at least for 3 years. Let us hope this will come out by the end of July. So this is where it stands. However, with all the, even though India has strongly come up with a request for patent waiver, India is very reluctant to grant a compulsory license because India want to keep the current negotiations with the US and Europe unpolluted, let us put it that way, especially in the context of India's current relation with China. Okay, next slide, please. So this is the provision in USA. US has, it is not under Patent Act, under 28 USC 1498, there is a patent and copyright. The government can move in and use patented technology, patented product can be sort of, the rights can be sort of waived, and patented technology can be allowed to be used by any corporation who is having a government contract. For example, in Anthrax case, ciprofloxacin, it has been widely allowed to be manufactured even though it was under patent. Then there are various other cases where jet fighters were contracted by the United States government. There are merger and acquisition, there is a threat to competition. Very many cases, the 28 USC 1498 is invoked by the US government, even though US government does not allow other countries, or they object to other countries granting compulsory licenses. Next slide, please. These are the provisions under 1498. I already described this to you. Next slide, please. Because of paucity of time, I would go a little faster. So similar provision exists in Europe also. European Parliament in May 2006, the compulsory license of patent relating to the manufacture of pharmaceutical product for export to countries with public health problems has been granted permission through this regulation by Europe. Next slide, please. These are the many countries where CL provisions has been sort of invoked in many countries. So these provisions are available. Some of the countries like Thailand, Malaysia, they have also used or implemented compulsory licensing for making the drugs available, affordable to the public at large. This is what generally I wanted to speak to you. I am once again grateful to all of you, grateful to Uday Bhaskar ji and Lakshmi Prasanna, all of you from AIDCOC for giving me this opportunity to express my few thoughts on the subject of your choice. And I will be grateful if I am happy to continue my association with all of you in future too. Thank you very much, Uday Bhaskar ji. Thank you, Lakshmi. God bless you. Thank you all the participants for joining, including very, very distinguished participants. Mr. Jagat Shetty sir is here, and I don't know whether Appaji is here, but many others like Sadhwani ji is from Maharashtra is also there. So I am very grateful to all of you for joining. Forgive me if I have not taken people by names because I can't see all of you. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity and sharing my thoughts with you.
Thank you so much, sir, for elaborative insights on the subject of the patents and the international provisions available for the global population. And now we are opening the floor for the questions, and I request the participants to either to raise their hands so we could allow you to have a discussion, or alternatively you could post your questions in the Q&A tab. I'll be taking those questions and get the answers from the speaker.
Thank you very much.
There is a hand raised from Mr. Nyandev Rane. Should I allow you to speak, Mr. Rane, please? Mr. Rane, you are allowed to speak. Let me go through the questions in the meantime.
There is Mr. Ashok Madan from Delhi, our IDMA Secretary General from Delhi. He is Executive Director from Delhi. Ashok Madan is saying IFPMA has called these companies as rogue companies. India is fortunate to have, let me put it, fortunate to have some rogue companies who are very sensitive to the needs of the patient. So, but they are definitely following the laws of the land, and we are like what you call Robin Hood, or we are very happy to see that these the extremely toxic provisions like evergreening are not being recognized in India. Thank you. There is a question, what are the pros and cons of it if India agrees to TRIPS plus provisions? Pros and cons is that we will be the patients will suffer. We may not get adequate, affordable access to medicines because India is still such a large population with needs are so wide and varied, and we will not be able to service the patient requirements if we are agreeing to TRIPS plus provisions. And of course, our very rigid stand as far as Patent Act is concerned, we have been extremely balanced. The most balanced Patent Act in the world is in India. And because of this, the absolute non-cooperative stand of innovator companies not granting voluntary licenses, that has been broken. In India, multiple voluntary licenses are getting granted because of the stand we have taken in interest of the patient's affordable access. Yeah.
Well said, sir. The provisions has allowed the innovator companies to force them into the voluntary licensing mechanism. So there is a request for an elaboration on the genus patent and special patents granted in India for dapagliflozin.
I would not be able to specifically discuss products and their genus and species patents, etc. In this session because I have not come prepared with all the data. But however, the dapagliflozin is definitely going to be available to Indian patients without too much ado. So basically, other than that, because the provisions are now getting more and more handled sensibly and sensitively. So basically, I cannot talk specifically on a particular product in this session. Yeah.
So request the audience to have a generalized questions on the entire concept of the waivers granted. Please refrain from asking the questions on product specific questions. Sir, let me get a clarification on the Bajaj Healthcare CL filing. I mean, since the Eli Lilly has already granted VLs for a good number of companies, and in that case, if a CL is being filed by a particular company, so how would be the subsequent government's provisions on that?
Could you please repeat the question? I was reading here. Sorry.
No, I just want to understand more in detail regarding the Bajaj Healthcare CL application. When the good number of VLs are already in place, are there any possibility for getting this CL?
I would not like to sort of pour water into the fire, but most probably, since their large number of licenses have already been 4 or 5 licenses have already been granted, those are companies which are already ready to launch. In fact, NATCO has already launched. So basically, the likelihood of individual companies going for compulsory license now getting granted is low. Two more reasons. The government department of DPIIT, the secretary has recently died of COVID. No appointment has been made in his place. The post is vacant. The Controller General of Patents, who is supposed to grant the patent, that post is also vacant for the last 1 year. And that is being handled by a joint secretary on part-time basis, just a token. So basically, major decisions from from Patent Controller General's office is most unlikely, unless a Patent Controller General is appointed. Yeah, that is my definite answer to that. But this timing is not very good. Timing is not appropriate. And as far as there is a question, how we will check the genuineness of patent product claimed by this is, you see, I can tell you the genuineness is to be checked by the users. Genuineness is to be checked by the medical person or the patients themselves. Any person, if you find a patented claim is not valid or genuine, you can challenge the patent. Patent is subject to challenge, and every time, anytime, there are many cases where patents claim has been invalidated for false claims. This is possible. Of course, it is a slightly costly procedure, but this is possible. And please remember, I mentioned to you, this is in specific question to answer to Mr. Bilal Ahmed Rathar, that I mentioned to you about the Orange Book in USA, etc. There is no reference by US FDA to check the veracity of the claims of the innovator. Innovator, whatever gives, they list in the Orange Book. If it is not right, it is for the interested people to challenge that. US FDA simply will list whatever patents are given by the innovator in the Orange Book. The claim, there is any invalidity in that has to be challenged by interested people. So the patent linkage in USA also doesn't mean that Drug Administration will check the validity of the patent. There is absolutely no, and in India, all the more no, because there is no drug patent linkage. Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification, sir. There is another question from our Deputy Drugs Controller, Dr. P.B.N. Prasad, sir. Sir, shall we allow you to have a discussion with Dr. Nair, sir? Or should I take the question? And his question is, the new drug permissions is considered for 4 years of validity, while the patented drug has a longer period. What is the implications of Drugs and Cosmetics Act or rules over the Patents Act?
Oh, so the India goes strictly by the definition of a new drug as per the Drugs and Cosmetics Act. So after the period which is specified in the Drugs and Cosmetics Act for the definition of a new drug, when the clinical studies have been conducted by the first applicant in India, and on the basis of that, the license has been granted by the DCGI. After 4 years, the other applicants are free to come out as a not new drug and apply for the state drug controller's approval. And since there is no patent linkage anyway in India, even before 4 years, if additional data is made available to the DCGI, DCGI is free to, even if it is a patented drug in India, the Drug Controller Administration, DCGI, is free to look at the technical data, the clinical data, and decide entirely by that. There have been Supreme Court cases, there have been challenges in the Supreme Court as well as the High Court of Delhi, and all the decisions have gone in favor of the Drug Control Administration as far as the granting of a license is concerned. Because there is no, I quoted you the Supreme Court order that there is no patent linkage in India, and it cannot be sort of accepted. Yeah.
Well, sir, that's a clear-cut understanding for all the regulators, which we have so many questions in our mind whether the patented drugs are allowed to be licensed or not. So now from our discussion, it is very clear that there is no linkage of the patenting system with the Drugs and Cosmetics Act.
As far as FDA or DCGI is concerned. Yeah.
Right. So as far as the company has submitted the entire clinical data or all the required data, so we are good to go ahead with the grant of license.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is for innovator to challenge. There are cases innovator has challenged, and still the decision has gone in favor. So in case of Biocon, in case of Mylan, there are many cases. They have all been decided in favor of the generic company. Yeah.
Yes. Sir, there is a quick add-on question on this. What about the permissions for a drug, for an import of a drug which is being manufactured by LDCs countries? Take an example of a Remdesivir that's being manufactured by Beximco of Bangladesh. And as per the Indian Patent Act, are there any provisions allowing the parallel imports from a country holding a LDC status?
No, there is no specific provision for LDC status. 107A(b) allows parallel imports of the Patent Act. Patent Act 107AA and 107AB, especially 107AB. 107AA allows for provision for export, purely for export, especially also for clinical trial purposes. 107AA, non for commercial purposes. And 107AB allows parallel imports, not specifically from developing LDC. However, what is I need to bring to your notice, there is existence of a third party. There is a import control measures are available to the customs where infringing products can be restricted. So there have been many cases. There is a very famous case of Ram Kumar in Chennai getting a patent on laser sketching, and he had sort of put all the multinational companies in trouble. But now that patent has been removed from that, trademarks, passing off, infringing designs, etc., those are all still there in the Customs Act of Import Control for patent or intellectual property protection. There is a very specific provision. However, patents have now been removed because patent is a more complex subject matter which cannot be decided by customs officials.
Thank you, sir.
Lakshmi, just I would like to add onto Nair. Sir, due to lack of understanding of import of this remdesivir has deprived the Indian patients to have remdesivir in India during this pandemic. There are Uzbekistan, Russia, and Bangladesh were ready to send, but our regulators' interpretation is that, so the Gilead has given voluntary licensing only to these 7 companies. You have also mentioned about the list of essential medicines. So if you see this, the government is very enthusiastic in regulate the masks and fixing the prices and oximeters and oxygen concentrators. I'm surprised, people are running around and about remdesivir. You all know that we all passed through this difficult phase. If you see the pricing of Indian companies also, Zydus Cadila price is 899 rupees per vial. The others are selling at 4,500 rupees. So this is sometimes, when the government is so enthusiastic in controlling the prices of masks and oximeters, the drug which is largely used or abused, whatever it may be, the remdesivir, the price is not made. They will say that it's not a scheduled drug. So if as you have rightly mentioned about that Bajaj, 14 rupees, 30 rupees is NATCO. But if the patient knows the 3,000 rupees per tablet made to 14,000, there will be reward. So, so it's atrocious actually. So
Yeah.
good, these the patent holders or innovators not giving voluntary licensing just like that, and Government of India also seriously think about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, we also have our Deputy Drugs Controller Ranga Chandrasekhar sir, and he wants to have a comment with Dr. Nair sir, and we have made on live.
Namaskar, sir.
Yeah, namaskar. Good afternoon, Dr. Nair. Nice
So happy
to
to meet you.
listen to you. So
I am really proud. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Really appreciate for taking time out and then trying to enlighten these forum members. And then your presentation and has been very succinct, so that whatever that is needed by the regulator and cutting out the flab and then giving the summary, just as a digest. So that is really helpful. I just have one comment and then
Yes, sir.
and then one query or views regarding on one issue. The comment is that as far as the India is concerned, this Form 44 has been subsequently amended, and now the requirement to seek the patent status in India that has been omitted.
Very good.
Recently.
But most of the books are still showing them. the
Yeah,
form.
yeah. So
Yeah.
because that was one of amendment, maybe so that has not been updated in many of this thing. So this is just for information, it's nothing.
Oh, very good,
else than
very
that.
good.
Okay.
We are represented for that. We are
Yeah,
represented for that. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So our whenever the issue comes up, so we always say that we are not linking in India. We are not linking patent status to the approval of the drug for marketing in the country. So that stand continues.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So I wanted to know your views on this point. So having said that, so what happens is that if someone is violating a patent, existing patent, which is valid in India, so what the innovator feel, whether the innovator may be foreign innovator or maybe domestic Indian innovator, so they feel the drug authorities, whether state or central, they give the permission without weighing down the patent applicability, and then the product is launched, and they come to know only after the product is being marketed. So when they know that the drug is being marketed in violation of their civil rights of a patent, so then they go to court, file a case, and then this goes on for several years before it is settled in the various courts. So what many of them are demanding rather is that so there should be some platform, so to know that when approval is issued for a patented drug, so they should be able to know prior to the grant of. So they are not asking that you withhold the approval. They are telling that they should be informed that so someone has filed a approval for a drug application for approval for a drug in violation of a patent or challenging a patent, and then so they wanted to take it immediately before the product is marketed. So I'm not in support or against anything. So my point is that I just wanted to know your views. Is there a need that such a platform is needed so that the patent holder knows beforehand that an approval is being given in challenging their patent status in the country, whether it is immaterial, whether it is a foreign company or Indian company?
Yeah, since in the absence of a patent linkage, the hands of the regulator are tied as far as the grant is concerned. However, when an application, since there is a lot of transparency in the administration, both at DCGI, CDSCO level as well as in a state, most of the advanced states, you can access the. I think you may the DCGI puts it on the website regarding applications being received and being handled. If such applications are being looked at by interested parties, they can try to inform the DCGI and also the courts that an application is being made for a patented drug without following the procedures of CL or VL, and you can they can try to. There have been many cases, about more than about 2 dozen cases where the innovator has come to know through RTI or from directly from your website, from the DCGI website, that applications have been made by companies and they have blocked the release of the permission to that company, at least for some time, till the court decides one way or the other. So this is possible, but at this moment there are limitations as well in the hands of the regulator as far as the patent blocking of grant of parallel permissions for patented drugs. That has to be eventually in the hands of the innovator or their licensee to challenge that through a court of law. It can be done on preventive basis and a stay or what you call an injunction. Specific relief can be obtained, but those are now, because of a few cases, erlotinib case, the erlotinib case, the famous judgment, the judge, honorable judge of the Delhi High Court, who is now in Supreme Court, he very clearly stated that if a drug, as Uday Bhaskarji mentioned, a drug which costs 3,000 rupees, if it is available 14 or 30 rupees, why should I stop it? Let the litigation go on, let the patients benefit, and when it is decided, let them give all the data of all the manufacturing information, and let the innovator claim for the damages from the infringer if it goes against the person who is marketing for 14 rupees. So that type of judgments have actually come up with from the courts. That is called judge-made compulsory license. I call it a judge-made compulsory license. So there have been cases in erlotinib. So similar cases are there, but to try to stop grant of permission to a generic manufacturer in the presence of a patented product in the Indian market. There are many cases. However, there is nothing that the Drugs Control Administration can fall back to say no at this moment to a parallel generic applicant. So that this can be accessed, the information can be accessed by the innovator and can try to obtain an injection. But lately, courts are also less inclined to grant an injection compared to earlier.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for your view, sir. So that's why my view was that these companies every 3 months. We receive RTI queries from various companies asking for whether how many applications have been received, how many approved, how many granted, all these things. So and there is a strong demand from the associations of these companies that so all the applications received for the new drugs should be put on the website of the CDSCO. Even before grant, they are not asking about the patent. Or they say they wanted the information what all the applications have been received of various drugs in public domain, so that if they are aggrieved, then they will like to contest that. So, but however, we have not. I mean, we did not. The government has not taken any decision regarding that.
Earlier, you were doing that, no, sir?
Not all applications, sir, because the issue of putting them in public domain, so it also has various other implications. For example, for example, a listed company. So if an application is seen on the website, immediately it has an impact. I mean, positively, positively, negatively, it might have impact on the share price of that company. I don't know. I'm just these are some issues put forward by some of the company representatives.
Dr. Chandra, only a day is not too far when Indian multinationals will ask for it.
Of course, sir. So, surely, because the
Indian multinationals like Sun Pharma, Cipla, Cadila, and Dr. Reddy and all will come up as requesting you to do this. Then the Patent Act will need to be amended.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the comments.
Thank you.
All right, so then we'll move on to the next question. I mean, Dr. Jagshetty also wanted to make a comment. So quickly, in the view of the paucity of time, I just quickly ask you to put forward your thoughts for a minute. Dr. Jagshetty ji.
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Dr. Jagshetty, good evening. Good afternoon.
It is very nice, sir. Dr. Gopakumar's hearing after a long time. He is an encyclopedia of the patents and all. So there is nothing. Just I wanted, as far as just now Chandrasekhar told about this not linking of the patenting and DCGI, new drug. It is better to continue like that, as on today, in my personal opinion. Why we should get into this? See, our principle of our country is whichever is not prohibited is permitted. Let the court decide. Let the court come out with some rule. Then the rule will be framed. Otherwise, we are benefited. Why should we get this? And regulators need not have to worry. And coming back to this waiver, sir, as everybody know, you all know, 2nd October of last year, India and South Africa started this one, gave a submission to the council. Last month, on 21st of May, I think around 62 countries, WTO member countries, have submitted a representation waiving of all those things, which includes the other things also like diagnostic, PP kits, therapeutics, medical device, all those things have been included.
Yeah.
And recently I heard there is one of the independent panel of WHO has made certain urgent calls requiring WHO and the WTO to convene major vaccine producing countries and manufacturers to get an agreement on voluntary licensing. That is one aspect. And then it is also told as within 3 months, if it is not, decision is not taken, though there is an objection from, nothing has been told by European Union and some other countries, USA has supported. Absolutely. 3 months time has been given. After that, it has to be taken into force automatically. And latest, I think this month, 8th or 9th, there was supposed to be, TRIP Council was supposed to meet and have a discussion. So please let me, any updates are there? Just I wanted to know.
The decision is expected by end of July.
July.
Yeah.
Because 8th or 9th, it was supposed to have TRIPS Council meeting, discussion. I don't know what has happened further. So just wanted to have a knowledge. And similarly, I feel US Orange Book you told and Purple Book you told. See, we also, CDS also should maintain one such book, including not only this one, brand names also. Nowadays, brand name, there is a lot of problems are there, which is no man's zone it has become actually. So that has to be controlled with MRTP, and at CDSCO, entire country brands have to be controlled at one point. It is very difficult. Just taking it, undertaking will not serve the purpose. That's what I feel. Thank you very much.
Undertaking will not serve the purpose. That is because it has historically, Section 13 has been ignored by Indian regulators. Section 13 of the Trademark Act has been ignored. So there is a lot of passing of, lot of similar marks with different active ingredients. Very, very, very complex situation in India. The marks, number of brands are running into lakhs.
Too much. Lasa or Sala, it has become too much.
All right, sir. I mean, there's another question from Rajshekhar Malli, sir, from Karnataka. Sir, is there any time limit for challenging a patent?
No time limit.
Is there any time limit for challenging a patent? Is the question.
Oh, challenging a patent, there is a 1 year time limit for filing a post-grant opposition. A granted patent can be opposed through a post-grant opposition. Post-grant opposition was supposed to be filed in IPAB, Intellectual Property Appellate Board, which has been dissolved now. As I told you already, the Controller General is not there, Secretary of the head main department is not there. So, but now IPAB is not there. So the the revocations after 1 year will need to be challenged in the High Court. So even the post-grant oppositions now, in the absence of IPAB, has to be same as a revocation. It has to be filed in the High Court. It can be filed.
They will fill up only after COVID third wave.
I fully agree with you. But then the current commercial courts, they claim, are equipped to handle this more speedily. That is what the proof of the pudding is in eating. Let the pudding come and then we will eat. Yeah, till it is to be tested, still to be tested. Because IPAB is gone, all the IPAB cases are transferred to the High Court, and there are in thousand. It should be at least a couple of thousand. So the High Courts are supposed to handle the IPAB matters after it dissolved. There is no mechanism evolved in High Courts to handle them yet.
Sir, I am thankful to Uday and Lakshmi and Gopu Nair also for giving me chance to speak. Thank you very much.
My God, you are entitled to speak, sir. God bless you. There is a clarification given by one gentleman called Mr. Bobby George that there is CDSCO portal is already showing some of these details of the applications, etc., including drug product and innovator company, etc. Yeah, that clarification is given by one of the participants.
Yes, sir. So currently already CDSCO portal is publishing the outcome of this SEC meetings on the new drug application. So it's a way that the innovator could get an idea on the regulatory developments of a particular.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sir,
Thank you very much.
we are running ahead of the time, and of course, there are few questions unanswered. Gopakumar Nair, sir, I mean, I mean, like, we are okay to take those questions offline once the program got over. Or
Absolutely. That would be a much better because it may continue. So I am available online. My email ID is available to you. Some people are asking for my phone number also, but I think you can make it available to them. Yeah, I have no objection. Yeah.
sure, sir. I mean, with that, we are closing the question and answer sessions, and we will be glad to get the answers from Dr. Nair after the session through email exchanges. And so I extend my sincere thanks on behalf of the All India Drugs Control Officers Confederation Training Academy for sparing your valuable time out of your busy schedule. And we are so fortunate to have you with us, sir, and almost most of our regulatory friends and industry have got a clear understanding on the patent system, which is not a thorough subject for the regulators, to be frank. And we got enlightened with your detailed analysis on different cases and all. And we are so fortunate to have you with us, sir. And we wanted to have a longer collaboration with you. And we look forward to hear more and more in the near future. Thank you.
I am honored. I consider myself fortunate to have been able to address you and to be associated with Uday Bhaskarji and Lakshmi ji. Thank you very much. And all the other distinguished dignitaries who have attended this program. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shall we close? Shall I leave?
Thank you, sir.
With your permission. Thank you. God bless you all. Have a good day, great day, good weekend. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and have a great day. So we'll be sharing the presentations through email to all the attendees. With that, we'll be closing off the program.